The city was a harsh mistress. Maria and David knew this better than most. They longed for peace, for quiet, for a place to breathe. When David landed a new job, they jumped at the opportunity. As they drove away, the city skyline shrinking in the rearview mirror, they dared to dream of a brighter future. Ahead lay the promise of a new life. Their new home was everything they had ever wanted. Rex, released from the confines of their old apartment, was ecstatic. Maria and David watched him, their hearts brimming with happiness. This wasn't just a house, it was a sanctuary. They spent the next few days unpacking boxes and settling in. They were building more than just a home, they were building a future. The first few weeks in their new home passed in a blissful blur. Days were spent exploring the nearby parks with Rex, evenings for cozy dinners on their porch. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. Husband, as David, "You'll be okay here by yourself?" Wife, as Maria, "Of course, Rex and I will be fine." One evening, the sky turned a sickly shade of green, heralding the approach of a storm. The wind, now a howling beast, tore through the trees. Rain lashed against the windows. Maria, her heart pounding, tried to distract herself. She lit candles, their flickering flames casting dancing shadows. Rex, sensing her unease, whined softly. The power flickered, plunging the house into darkness. Thunder rattled the house, the sound so loud it felt like the roof was about to come down. Maria huddled on the floor, Rex trembling beside her, and prayed for the storm to pass. Hours crawled by, each one an eternity. Maria, exhausted but too wired to sleep, paced the darkened living room. A new sound, faint at first but growing steadily louder, cut through the roar of the storm. A scratching sound coming from the back door. Maria froze, her blood turning to ice. She knew, with a certainty that chilled her to the bone, that she wasn't alone. She retreated to the living room, her mind racing. A flash of lightning illuminated the backyard, revealing a shape, tall and gaunt, silhouetted against the window. It wasn't human. Terror surged through her. She grabbed Rex's collar, her fingers digging into the leather. She was trapped in a nightmare, the storm of a malevolent entity that had conspired to isolate her. The scratching at the back door stopped. A new sound reached her ears, a slow, deliberate thumping from upstairs. Whatever was outside had found a way in.
Oh God, it's inside.
Rex, his hackles raised, let out a low growl. They were both afraid, but they would face this nightmare together. The doorknob rattled again, a slow, deliberate movement.
Breathing heavily.
She tightened her grip on the iron poker. The door creaked open, revealing a sliver of darkness beyond.
Whispering, "Oh no."
The air grew cold, as if a draft from an open grave had swept into the room. A flash of lightning illuminated the doorway, revealing the creature. It was a grotesque parody of a human form, tall and gaunt, its limbs impossibly long and thin.
Gasping, "Oh my God."
The creature turned its head towards her, its eyes locking onto hers with a hunger. It smiled, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. With a roar, Rex broke free of Maria's grasp and launched himself at the creature. The creature, caught off guard, let out a high-pitched shriek.
"Rex, no!"
The creature flung Rex against the wall, but he scrambled back to his feet. This was his home, his family, and he would defend them to the death.
Sobbing, "Please, Rex, be careful." Rex, stay back.
Maria lunged forward, bringing the iron poker down on the creature's arm. The creature seemed not to notice, its attention focused on Rex. Maria grabbed a heavy ceramic lamp and hurled it at the creature's head. The lamp shattered, and the creature staggered back. The creature turned its burning gaze on Maria, and she knew it was going to kill her. With a strength that belied its emaciated frame, the creature flung Rex across the room. The dog slammed into the wall, his whimper of pain lost in the roar of the storm. The creature advanced on Maria, its eyes glowing with a malevolent light, its claws extended, ready to tear her to shreds. Maria, knowing she was no match for the creature in a physical confrontation, did the only thing she could think of.
I have to run.
She didn't know where she was going, didn't have a plan. But she knew she couldn't let it catch her, couldn't let it win. She raced through the house, her bare feet slapping against the hardwood floors, her lungs burning, her heart pounding in her chest like a drum. The creature was right behind her, its heavy footsteps shaking the floor, its raspy breathing close behind her. She could feel its presence, cold and menacing like a shadow that clung to her heels. The storm raged outside, mirroring the chaos that had overtaken her home. The wind howled, the rain lashed against the windows, the thunder roared like a wild beast. But even the fury of the storm was drowned out by the sound of her own terror, the frantic beating of her heart, the desperate gasping of her breath. She was running for her life, and the only thing standing between her and the abyss was a prayer and a hope that she could somehow outrun the nightmare that hunted her. Maria's lungs burned, each breath a searing pain in her chest. Her legs screamed for respite, her muscles pushed to their breaking point. But still, she ran, adrenaline fueling her flight, terror lending speed to her steps. The creature was relentless, its pursuit unwavering, its presence a suffocating weight on her heels. The heavy thud of its footsteps echoed through the house, a constant reminder that she couldn't outrun it forever. She burst out of the back door and into the raging storm, the wind whipping her hair around her face, the rain stinging her eyes. The backyard, normally a sanctuary of peace and quiet, was now a maelstrom of wind and water, the trees swaying violently, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. She stumbled through the mud and the wet grass, her eyes searching frantically for an escape, a hiding place, anything to put some distance between her and the nightmare that stalked her. Rex, battered but undeterred, burst through the door behind her, his bark lost in the roar of the wind. He was limping, his body bearing the marks of the creature's assault, but his eyes, fixed on Maria, were filled with an unwavering determination to protect her. He ran beside her, his presence a source of comfort in the heart of the storm.
Rex, we can do this. We have to keep going.
Together they braved the storm, their bond unbroken, their spirits undeterred, as they faced the darkness that sought to consume them. The old tool shed at the back of the property, a dilapidated structure that had seen better days, offered a glimmer of hope. It wasn't much, but it was something, a potential barrier between her and the creature that hunted her.
Come on, Rex, we can make it.
Maria scrambled towards it, her lungs screaming for air, her legs heavy and leaden. Rex, sensing her intention, darted ahead, pushing open the creaking door with his head. The interior of the shed was dark and cramped, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying wood. Cobwebs hung from the rafters like ghostly shrouds, and rusted tools lay scattered on the dirt floor. It wasn't much of a sanctuary, but it was better than nothing. It was a place to catch her breath, to gather her wits, to try to make sense of the nightmare that had overtaken her life.
Thank you, Rex. Thank you.
Maria slumped against the rough wooden wall, her chest heaving, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. Rex, his sides heaving, whined softly and nudged her hand with his nose, as if sensing her terror and offering his unwavering support. She wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his fur, drawing strength from his warmth, his loyalty, his love.
Please, just let it be over. Just let us be safe. The storm raged outside, the wind howling its fury. The sound was deafening, disorienting, but strangely comforting. It was a familiar sound, a sound that belonged to the natural world. The creature with its grotesque form belonged to a realm of nightmares.
A glimmer of light appeared in the east. Dawn was coming. Maria clung to that thought, to the hope it offered. The sun, a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the darkest night must give way to day. As the first rays of sunlight pierced through the cracks in the shed walls, painting long, thin stripes on the dusty floor, a profound sense of relief washed over Maria. She had survived the night. Against all odds, she had faced the nightmare and lived to see the dawn. Rex, sensing the shift in her mood, stirred beside her, letting out a soft whine as if in agreement.
We made it, Rex. We really made it.
The storm, as if exhausted from its own fury, began to subside. The wind died down, the rain eased to a gentle drizzle, and the thunder, now a distant rumble, seemed to retreat to the farthest corners of the earth. Nature, it seemed, was catching its breath, recovering from its own wild dance.
Let's see what's out there.
Maria cautiously opened the shed door and stepped outside. The air was cool and damp, fragrant with the scent of wet earth and pine needles. The storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean, the sky a vibrant blue, the clouds scattered like cotton balls across the horizon. The sun, now a golden orb in the east, bathed the world in its warm light, chasing away the shadows, banishing the nightmares of the night.
It's over, Rex. It's finally over.
The nightmare, however, was far from over. The memory of the creature lingered in her mind, a dark stain that threatened to consume her.
I looked around the backyard and couldn't shake the feeling that the creature was still out there, hidden in the shadows.
She went back inside the house, her hand trembling as she reached for the doorknob. The house was a mess, furniture overturned, the air thick with the lingering stench of decay.
Each creak of the floorboard sent a shiver down my spine. I was safe for now, but I knew the feeling of safety was an illusion.
David returned home, his relief evident in his tight embrace. He listened as she told him about the storm, the creature, and the terror.
It was just a nightmare, a figment of your imagination.
He tried to reassure her, but she could see the doubt in his eyes. The sun shone brightly, but even its warmth couldn't penetrate the chill that had settled deep within Maria's soul. Life went on as it always does. The storm became a distant memory, a tale told in hushed tones on dark and stormy nights. The house was repaired, the furniture rearranged, the shattered glass swept away, but the scars remained, hidden beneath the surface, invisible to the naked eye, but ever present nonetheless.
I tried to forget, to move on, to reclaim the sense of peace and security that had been so brutally shattered that night. I threw myself into my gardening, finding solace in the feel of the warm earth beneath my fingers. The vibrant colors of the flowers a stark contrast to the darkness that lingered in the recesses of my mind.
She spent hours baking, the familiar smells of vanilla and cinnamon filling the house with a comforting warmth. She made a conscious effort to laugh, to smile, to pretend that everything was all right.
But the fear remained, a constant companion whispering in the back of my mind, casting long shadows across my days. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside the window, every unexpected noise sent a shiver down my spine. The storm might have passed, but the memory of that night, the feeling of dread, the certainty that something evil had crossed the threshold of my home, refused to be silenced.
The nights were the worst. As darkness descended, so too did the fear, wrapping itself around her like a shroud, suffocating her with its icy grip. Sleep, once a welcome respite, became an elusive dream, a battleground where nightmares stalked her every move.
I would lie awake for hours, listening to the sounds of the house settling around me, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind conjuring up images of the creature, its grotesque form, its malevolent eyes, its insatiable hunger.
David, sensing her unease but powerless to alleviate it, tried to be understanding.
I held her tight when the nightmares woke her in a cold sweat, whispering words of comfort that rang hollow in the face of the terror that consumed her. I suggested therapy, medication, anything that might help her to heal, to forget, to reclaim her life.
But the fear was deeply rooted, a seed of darkness that had taken root in the fertile ground of her trauma. She couldn't escape the feeling that she was being watched, that the creature was out there, somewhere in the shadows, biding its time, waiting for its opportunity to return. She caught glimpses of movement in the periphery of her vision, heard whispers in the wind that seemed to form words, felt a cold presence brush against her skin in the dead of night. She knew, with a certainty that defied logic or reason, that she hadn't seen the last of the creature, that it would be back. Desperate for answers, for a way to make sense of the unexplainable, Maria turned to the internet, to books, to anyone who might have encountered something similar, something that could shed light on the darkness that had invaded her life. She read about ancient myths and legends, about creatures of the night, about things that go bump in the dark. She scoured local folklore, searching for any mention of a creature that matched the one she had encountered, a creature that seemed to defy all known laws of nature.
But my search yielded more questions than answers. The creature remained an enigma, a terrifying anomaly that defied categorization, a nightmare ripped from the pages of a horror novel and thrust into my reality. The more I learned, the more I realized how little I knew, how vast and unknowable the universe truly is, how thin the veil between our world and the realms beyond.
She even considered reaching out to the authorities, to reporting what she had seen. But the words caught in her throat. How could she possibly explain what had happened? Who would believe her? They would think she was crazy, delusional, hysterical. And what if they didn't believe her? What if they dismissed her fears only to have the creature return, more powerful, more determined than before? No, she couldn't risk it. She was on her own. Gradually over time, the sharp edges of fear dulled, replaced by a pervasive sense of unease, a constant awareness that the world was not as safe, as predictable as she had once believed. The nightmares became less frequent, the shadows less menacing, but they never truly disappeared. They lurked at the edges of her vision, waiting for a moment of weakness, a lapse in her vigilance, to resurface.
I learned to live with the fear, to adapt to the new reality of my life. I installed extra locks on the doors and windows, invested in a security system, kept a baseball bat by my bedside. I avoided being alone in the house at night, my fear a tangible presence in the empty rooms, the silence amplifying every creak and groan of the old house.
The storm, once a distant memory, became a harbinger of dread. The rumble of thunder in the distance, the flash of lightning across the sky, the scent of rain on the wind, all served as a reminder of that night, of the terror that had gripped her, of the creature that had shattered her peace of mind. She would find herself on edge, her senses on high alert, her body bracing for an attack that never came. But the fear, the knowledge that it could happen again at any moment, lingered like a bad taste in her mouth. Life, with its relentless forward momentum, continued to unfold. The seasons changed, and the memory of that night began to fade.
But the fear, though diminished, never truly vanished. Every storm brought a familiar tightness, a primal instinct to seek shelter.
She learned to live with the fear, a reminder of her strength. She found solace in her husband, her dog, and everyday joys. As storms gathered, she offered a silent prayer for peace.